What is up, everybody? Welcome to the video. Today we are gonna have a little bit of a throwback to my very first marathon prep, the trials I went through, the mistakes I made, because there were many, and the main takeaways I've learned and things I'm gonna apply in my future preps. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so zone 2 40-minute run finished up on this beautiful summer Tuesday. It's still hot and humid out there, but today had a nice breeze going on, so a little bit easier to regulate my heart rate through that run. But like I said at the beginning of the video, we're going to talk about my first marathon prep, the life-changing journey it brought me through. So this story all starts when I was 20 years old in mid-2021. At this time, I just moved states. I was living in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. I grew up there, and my wife and I decided to move to southern Alabama, establish our life here, buy a home. So it was a transitional time when I was still figuring out the new living situation, my new work schedule. It was just a time of change. I've always struggled with yo-yoing when it comes to my weight. Ever since I first found the gym at 13 years old, I was a heavier set kid. But unfortunately, at 20 years old in 2021, I found myself at my heaviest weight, which was 230 pounds. I don't like using excuses. I could say it's because it was just such a busy time, but really, your health should always take precedent over all those things. I really just let myself go. I was eating whatever I wanted. I was not exercising really at all at the time. I was still keeping up with fitness YouTube. I would watch Nick Bare. I already started dabbling with running before I moved, but obviously at 230 pounds, I wasn't taking any of that very serious. Because of this, I was extremely depressed, and there's a snowball effect that happens whenever you are in your worst physical shape. It kind of starts leaching into the mind. I'm a big believer that the mind and body are just one working organism, and really this was rock bottom for me. And I knew I needed to change, something had to give. So I decided that I was going to go headfirst into something that I had never had done before. So in around July of 2021, I signed up for a marathon. This marathon was going to be in April 4th, I believe, before I turned 21 years old. And at 230 pounds, I had to find a way to get in shape to run this marathon. I didn't know what I was doing. I had to learn along the way, but I knew it needed to be something difficult to push me outside my box. Everything needed to go towards this one goal. So every single day, I decided to commit to doing something that was challenging. I tightened up my diet. I did research on marathon programming. I followed Nick Bare's, this was his very first marathon prep program on his old app. And I also tightened up resistance training. I did some kettlebell work. Didn't have a gym membership at this time. I just moved, but I made sure to get in a little bit of something just to help me stay not injured to this time. So it was just a learning experience. I just threw myself into all this and was hoping for the best. So after all that research on programming, I settled on that I needed to do a 16-week prep. Nick Bare just released his first, I think it was the Embrace the Suck marathon program, I believe. This was before Go One More was really established. And I was like, you know what? This looks good enough. They had a beginner mode, and I signed up for it. So again, because I had this epiphany in July, this marathon prep required me to train through the winter months. And this was the journey that changed my life forever. At this time, this was absolutely rock bottom for me. I was working a job I did not like at all at Chick-fil-A. I was just trying to get money in wherever I could. I just moved to a new state, so I worked a job didn't really care for. And this job started at 5:30 in the morning, which required me to wake up at 4 a.m. to get my workouts in. But I really believe in hindsight, this is what I needed. I needed something that sucked, that wasn't comfortable, to push me just to get the work done no matter how I was feeling. And also, I was extremely regimented with my diet. I would eat the same thing on my break at work every day, a grilled chicken sandwich with a Greek yogurt parfait. I would get off of work, have a protein bar, and then whenever it came to dinner, I would just double up on whatever protein was there. I probably wasn't eating enough food in hindsight, but this did, with all the volume of running, really make me shred weight like no one else. I've never lost weight at this speed before. So after the first month and a half or so, I was able to slip under 200 pounds. And this was huge. I mean, again, starting at 230, feeling like crap, even though 200 still didn't look that great on me. I'm not a very tall guy. I'm 5'8", 5'9" on a good day. This was huge. I lost 30 pounds, and I never have had a weight loss journey that massive before, and it just motivated me even more to continue down this road. At the same time, my running was getting better. I was spending a lot of time just hammering zone 2 training. So cardiovascularly, I was getting really fit, and I was running longer than I ever had before, being able to crush a half marathon without even thinking about it on my normal Sunday long run. I truly believe, because my focus was training for this marathon and the weight loss and getting healthy was almost a side effect, it almost tricked my brain in thinking this is like a game. I was getting fitter and I had all these little wins that kept me motivated even if the scale didn't move down that week. And even though the temperatures were getting colder and all of my training was completely in the dark early in the morning, I was more motivated than ever to finish this through. So this takes us to the middle of the training block. And this was pretty locked in. I stayed focused for most of that middle of the block, all the way up to around the 16-mile long run, which was around week 13 or 14 of 16-week prep. We built a lot of fitness. I was getting faster and able to handle longer distances, but then things changed up. I moved jobs. I finally got out of working at Chick-fil-A, like I said, and my schedule completely changed. This is where I learned the first lesson that I have taken all the way into today in my training now, and that is to always backwards plan. If I planned ahead and knew that my schedule was changing and already pre-thought out when my training could take place, I think I would have been able to stay a whole lot locked in, especially at the end of a marathon training block where all the time is crucial and that mileage is definitely needed to have a good race. At this time, I was below 170 pounds, getting closer and closer to my race weight that I ended up racing at. So still built a lot of fitness, still got in a lot better shape, but as far as the marathon race went, things were looking a little rocky. So around that 13 or 14 week mark, I was getting around 50 to 55 miles a week, and that got cut down drastically to more like 25 or 30 miles a week for my last few weeks leading up to the marathon. Was this ideal? Would I ever do this again? No. However, from where I started, I was in such better health and fitness, and I really counted on that to carry me through the race. The other mistake I made was hoping the training would do everything for me. It would make the race a breeze, and although you want to spend a lot of time training, you should also go into your race with a smart game plan for the day of, and that is something I completely neglected doing this time. So the time passed, getting settled into my new job, trying to run whenever I found the time, and race week was finally upon me. So here we are at race week. My race was back in Texas, so about 5 days beforehand, we traveled back, we drove. So legs were a little stiff from that, was able to get in 2 runs, one the day after we got there. I took a few days off and then did a 2-miler the day before the race as a shakeout. To show how dumb I was, I'm pretty sure I hit a deadlift PR, or at least hit what was my PR the day before the race. Like, I was just not comprehending that this is a massive effort, and I saw so many people doing it online. I think I kind of underestimated the power of the marathon. Yes, it's not an ultra, it's not 100 miles, but the marathon distance is definitely something that needs to be taken serious. I had a little bit of anxiety going into the race day. I did not run more than 16 miles the entire prep. I should have had a 22-mile long run, which would have given me a better idea of, how long was this race gonna take me. During training, I threw around that I think I could get sub 4. And honestly, if I would have taken training serious, I think I could have. But again, things falling apart. And then going into race day, I paced myself a little too aggressively. So I started off the race, was just kind of going with the crowd, And then I was holding on for, 6-7 miles, and not too far ahead of me was the 3:30 pacer. Again, my goal was like, maybe I can go under 4, but I was like, you know what, I'm feeling good, only mile 5, and I stuck around the 3:30 pacer. This was definitely kind of a mistake, as I stuck with him till around mile 14 or 15 or so. Then I started fading back a little bit, and I was like, you know what, it's fine, I'm not gonna hit 3:30, but I think I'll be definitely in sub 4. And then mile 18 hit, and the wheels fell off. Everything fell apart. I was cramping, and then whenever I was not cramping and I could run, my stomach was bothering me. Again, since I didn't do like a 22-mile long run, I wasn't really able to plan my nutrition and experiment with my nutrition in training. So I was just taking pickle shots, taking goos, which personally wrecked my stomach, and just trying everything I could to try to get rid of this crampingness that get rid of this cramping that already was setting into my legs. So mile 18, everything was going downhill, and it got to the point where I really had to like walk the uphills, and it was like a little shuffle for the downhills. Slow 15-minute miles for the remainder of the race. My official finishing time was 4 hours, 47 minutes. I'm not super disappointed in that time, considering I didn't take the training serious, and I know I can do better. And rather than just beating myself up and saying I'm a failure and I didn't take it serious, I think there's a lot to be learned from this first marathon training. The first thing being that a 16-week training program takes a lot of focus. A lot of things can change and happen, and it's unrealistic to think that everything besides your training will just go perfect and that no obstructions will come in the way. So the first point I would send home with you is to always backwards plan, so that way everything can get done when it comes to your training, despite what crazy variables are going on in your day-to-day life. For me, this was successful because it got me in shape and gave me the confidence. I raced at 155 pounds. I lost 70 pounds in this marathon prep, completely changed my life. And although there's been ups and downs since then, I've been able to take that victory and apply it even into today. So it wasn't a perfect experience, but now we are back. We are marathon base building currently, and we are going to do our fastest marathon come January of 2026. So if you want to stick around and see the journey of redemption, make sure to hit subscribe, follow along for the journey. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to my story of my very first marathon. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, make sure to leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.